G'day and welcome to Outback Adventures. I'm Big Al. In a week's time we're going to be heading off on our camping trip, and I just want to go through a few things that I do before we head off. Now, first thing you need to do is get your power on, batteries charged up, and start stacking everything that you need for 4 days. We're going away for 4 days this time. 4 days on a fantastic trip to Tulum Falls. So I'm going to go through a few things that we do about jacking up, leveling up, because you have to have your camper level to put your fridge on, and we'll go through that and some of the things that I use in this first week to make sure that everything's ready to go. So let's get started. Well, now with the cover off, what we're going to do first is unlatch all the latches to the roof. Always make sure that these latches are undone before you start winding the camper up. Problem is, if you try and wind it up with them, you're putting a lot of tension on the cables, and that can be a disaster. Now, the beauty about having a Jayco wind up is you don't have to wind it all the way up to actually start stacking some gear in. So what I've done is I've raised it about an inch. I can open the side door, start getting a few things that I store in there out, like our jack, a few other things that I use to get started with, and then we can put the jack underneath, make sure the camp is level, hook up the wire, hook up the electrical lead. To what I've got is an inverter that changes your 10 amp from your home to a 15 amp, so that your actually 15 amp plug can actually get into power up the trailer. So let's get that started. Before you start jacking your trailer up, make sure that you've got your handbrake on, so you're not going to have the trailer rolling once you start jacking. Now, what I use to jack my trailer up is a Kojak caravan jack. I find that hydraulic jacks like this one here are probably the safest jack you can use when jacking up a caravan. There's a few attachments you have to put on, so let's get started. First off, you need to wind the top section out as far as you can. And a couple of the bits that you need to put on, there's an extension rod, and what you need to do is you use this section here. It's two pieces. It clips around the first section, the screw section of the jack. You have another section which slides over the two lugs that you put around, and you need to tighten these up with a small Allen key to make sure we've got no movement there. With a Jayco camper, you use this attachment which has a dome on top. The dome fits into the jack stand underneath the camper. That way, once you're putting pressure onto the frame of the camper, you're not going to do any damage or warp the frame. That's the reason why that section is there, to make sure when you're jacking up it's safe and secure. What we're jacking up for today is just to make sure that the camp is level. So once we put the fridge on, it's all set, ready to go. So now with the caravan nice and level, you can put your stabilizers down. Now for those who have just got a new caravan, just remember stabilizers are for only stabilizing the camper. They're not for leveling the camper. And what I've found, and this is for lazy campers like myself, if you want to make the job just a little bit quicker, I find that a socket on a drill fits perfectly to your stabilizers. You can quickly run it down and you're done. The next part is now to hook up your camper so that you can charge the batteries and also run your fridge. Now I find that running the fridge for 2 or 3 days before you start stocking it up gives it a good chance to cool down, so once you put your food and drinks into the fridge, they're nice and cold, so when you get to your site you've got a nice cold beer to crack open. But most caravan parks these days want you to hook up with a 15 amp lead. Now for those of you who don't know, 15 amp lead has a larger earth. So you need to make sure that when you do hook up, that you've got your 15 amp lead, but it makes it difficult to hook up to your 10 amp power at home. So if you race down to Bunnings, you can buy yourself a plug which has a 15 amp lead and socket. So you can plug this into your 240 volts at home to your normal 10 amp power point. You can plug your 15 amp lead in and you're set to go. It's a great idea to make sure that you do hook up before you head off, to make sure your batteries are charged, fridge is on, nice and cold. Well, now you're all hooked up, ready to go. Power's on. Make sure you put the power on inside the small switch that turns the power on to the camper so it can start charging your battery. Make sure you turn your fridge on. You want those beers to be nice and cold, and I'll see you soon.